Hello and welcome back to It's Tech Time. We're going to continue the tmux video series with part 2 today. And what we're going to do is take a look at tmux panels today. Specifically, we can divide up our tmux window into sections or panes. We can split them vertically or even horizontally, and that will allow us to have something running in one quadrant as well as something else running in another quadrant. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up this feature and use it. So let's get started. First, let's brush up on what we've learned so far. In the previous video, we discussed that tmux is a terminal multiplexer, which is a fancy way of saying that it can create terminals within terminals. And one of the more popular benefits of tmux is that it keeps your session running even when you're no longer connected to the server. But as I mentioned earlier, aside from persistence, tmux also gives you the ability to create horizontal and vertical splits, or as some people call them, panes. And that is what we will be covering in this video, how to create panes or split the tmux window. The first thing we need to do is activate tmux. We do that by simply typing in tmux and then press enter. And just like that, we're inside the tmux window, and we know that because of the green footer at the bottom. Now the first thing that I'm going to show you how to do is how to create a vertical split like I mentioned in the first video. Now as I mentioned in the previous video, before you can enter any type of tmux specific command, you have to hit the prefix key first. If I was to simply just type in ls, for example, a Linux terminal is going to think that I'm talking to it, and tmux is going to ignore what I'm typing in, because there's no difference between your Linux shell inside tmux and then your Linux shell and your server. But if we want to work with tmux creating vertical splits directly, we want to give an instruction to tmux itself. We will need to send the prefix key first to start doing that. And to send the prefix key by default is to hold the control key and then press the B button at the same time, and then let go of those. And then you give tmux an instruction. So what I'll have you do right now is type the percent symbol. So hold down the shift key and then press 5. And as you can see, that split the window. It split it down the middle. We created a vertical split. Now I know working with tmux so far is probably pretty strange if you have no experience with working with it before. It's almost like we're playing finger gymnastics around the keyboard. We're holding down control and stretching out, and then stretching our index finger all the way to the B to send a prefix. Then we're holding on shift and pressing the percent symbol to create a vertical split. Here's the thing. It's going to get a lot easier as we keep going along. And in the last video in the series, I'm going to show you how to set your own prefix key to whatever you want it to be, and I'll show you how to customize additional shortcuts as well. In fact, you're going to make tmux your own, and you're going to configure it to work the way you want it to work. But until then, we're going to continue using the default prefix key for tmux and use the default shortcuts as well. That way we know how to use tmux itself, and then we can especially appreciate video 5 when we get to customize tmux. So let's get back to tmux, and I'll show you even more about how to create splits. Now next, I'll show you how to create a horizontal split, where tmux will split the window horizontally. Again, we'll send the prefix key by holding Control and then pressing B. And after we do that, what we're going to do is send the double quote symbol. And just like that, I've created a horizontal split. Now notice that the split is going to be created in whatever quadrant you're currently using. And we see a cursor right here where I am right now. So if I was to start typing a command, ls-l for example, is going to be typed wherever that cursor appears. But at this point, I have a few different panes. I have a large pane on my left, and I have two smaller ones on the right. I was able to create that by first creating a vertical split down the middle, and then on the right hand side, I added a horizontal split as well. But how do you move between panes within a tmux window? How do you move from one pane to another? Well, here's what you could do. We'll send the prefix key, Control B, and then we'll press the left arrow. So Control B and then the left arrow, and that moved me over to the left side of the screen. So we're going to do Control B, right arrow, and that moved me back over to the right. I hit Control B up, and that moves me up. Hit Control B and then down, and that moves me back down. Prefix key B, left, over to the left. You get the idea at this point. So we're able to move in between these quadrants or panes within tmux, and whichever one the white cursor is inside of is the one that's going to receive our input if we start to type. Now what we're going to do is work through a hands-on example. So if you'll follow along with this hands-on tmux workflow example, throughout these video series, I will give you a real workflow example. These are hands-on examples, and these will help you become more proficient with tmux. What we'll do first though is we will reset our entire session. Now there's a more preferred way of doing this, but for right now what I'll do is just simply type exit in the quadrant or pane that I'm inside of right now. And that's going to close it. And now I'm left at the two horizontal screens and I'm left in the bottom quadrant. And so I'll type exit again and that closed that screen, and now I'm just left with the one tmux screen. And I'm going to go ahead and type exit and close the last window. I'm back to the default Linux terminal, and I have exited tmux, as you can tell by the exited on the command line there, and I have completely exited. So if I run tmux and then list sessions, it shows no running sessions. So I have completely closed out of tmux. This is the opposite of what we did in the previous video, where we did prefix key and then D, or control B then D. That detached the sessions we were running, so that kept them running in the background. This time we actually typed in exit on the last tmux window that we had open, and this closed out, and so now we have no tmux sessions at all. And that also means with this hands-on example we can start from scratch. So again, I'm going to launch tmux, and I'll do that by simply typing in tmux and then pressing enter. And now tmux is active and ready to go. Now what we're going to do again is create a split. Again, we'll start with a vertical split just like last time. So we'll send the prefix key, control B, and then we'll type in %, and now we have a split down the middle. Now what we're going to do is send the prefix key again, control B, and then we're going to press the left arrow so we're on the left side of the screen. Next we'll send the prefix key one more time, control B, and then we'll type a double quote symbol. So effectively we've created the reverse of the layout that I had before, but there's a reason for that. Just work with me and it will make sense here shortly. So what we're going to do next is we are going to send the prefix key, control B, and we're going to press the up arrow to go to the top left pane. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run htop. If you don't have htop installed, you can simply run top. This is what htop looks like. If you don't have htop installed, you can simply run top. This is what top looks like. It's not going to look anywhere near as good as htop does. It really doesn't matter so much though. The whole point here is I'm showing you that you could have a resource monitor in one pane that you can keep an eye on, but I'm going to go ahead and run htop. Htop is something that you can install if that's something that you want to take advantage of. I also understand with the font size, you're not seeing all of it, but we have a resource monitor running in the top left pane. So that's pretty cool right now. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to send the prefix again, control B, and this time we're going to hit the down arrow, and that's going to move us down to the lower left pane. So we're going to type in sudo journal ctl-f. And just like that, it's going to follow the log. I'm not going to get into logs in this series. This is just an example, and we can pretend that we're following an important log file in that pane right there. It doesn't really matter what's going on there. This is just an example anyway. I'll send the prefix again, followed by the right arrow. So control B, right arrow. And now I have some status information on the left-hand side of the terminal. On the right-hand side, I have a terminal session that I can use to enter in whatever command I want. For example, I can run sudo apt update, and it's going to ask for a password, and that's going to show up on the right hand side. We even see the logging information update on the left hand side. As soon as I ran that command, we also saw some of that information change within htop as well. So we have a session here that looks something more like what you'd see in the real world. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send the prefix key, control B, followed by the D key for detached. And now we're back to our normal Linux terminal. Now what we'll do is just assume that we're doing very important work within that session again. To make sure that that session is still running, I will run tmux and then list -sessions, and that's going to show us any sessions that we currently have running. Now right now I'm not going to go into too much detail about sessions within this video, because that's going to be covered in a future video in this series. We'll be covering sessions in depth eventually. So for right now, we'll just be okay with the fact that we're only going to have one session until there's a reason to create another one. The session is running and we know what we were working on is safe as long as we don't restart the system or kill the session that's holding that open. We should be good when we want to reattach to that session. We simply run tmux, then attach, and that brings it right back in front of us, just like you see right here. Nothing has changed. This continued to run in the background. We just decided that we want that in the foreground this time. And now that we can see our different tmux sessions working in front of us, this is a good place to end this video. Of course, I'm going to teach you a lot more when it comes to tmux, but I think this is enough for this particular video. What I want you to do is practice all these concepts that we've covered so far before you move on to the next video that will come out next week. We just want to make sure that we have a good handle on everything that we've learned so far. So just go ahead and practice, then we'll move on to the next video next week. And one last thing before I close out this video. Earlier we typed exit to exit out of a particular pane, but that's not a very specific to tmux command. That's just a Linux terminal in general command. You can type exit to exit out of any session. So by typing exit, that's going to exit out of whatever session we're in. And what we're in right here is a pane at the lower right hand corner. But we don't have to type exit to exit out. What we could do is send the prefix Control B, then the letter X. And at the bottom, it's asking if I want to kill pane number 2. tmux numbers everything, starting from 0, just so you know. But it's giving us a prompt right here that's letting us know that we can continue to kill that pane if we want to. And since I do, I'll just type in Y to confirm, and there you go, it's gone. Again, that was the prefix, Control B, and then the X key. And then it's going to ask if I want to kill pane 1, and I do, so I'm going to put in Y, and there goes that pane. And then one more time, Control B, X key for exit. Do I want to kill pane 0? Y for yes. And I'm back to the default Linux terminal. tmux is really not that complicated to learn. It may kind of seem like it is at first, but trust me, it's not as weird or as complicated as it seems. And as we go through these videos, you will understand more and more about how to use tmux. In the next video, we're going to learn how to use Windows, and I don't mean Microsoft Windows. We are going to learn how to create windows inside of tmux. In addition to that, there's going to be a number of new things that I'm also going to show you in the next video, which will come out next week. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next week.